The mountains of Cunner loomed above like silent giants hiding deadly secrets beneath their shadows. A small U.S. Army platoon moved carefully across the rocky terrain under the cover of night. The wind cut through their uniforms, carrying the cold and dust with it. Sergeant Harris led the team, his face hard and determined. The mission was simple on paper, but deadly in reality. A recon team had gone missing hours ago. No radio signals, no movement, nothing but silence. Every soldier felt the weight of the unknown pressing on their shoulders, but none dared show fear. Private Jackson, the youngest in the unit, struggled to keep his pace. His heart raced as he looked at the dark mountains and the shadows moving in the moonlight. He had trained for this, but nothing in training could prepare him for what lay ahead. A distant crack of gunfire echoed across the valley. The platoon froze. Harris raised his hand, signaling everyone to remain silent. Another burst came closer, and the smell of smoke reached them. The missing team was alive, but in grave danger. The platoon moved faster, careful to stay hidden in the shadows. Every rock and tree became a potential threat. Suddenly, an explosion tore through the darkness, sending shockwaves across the slope. A soldier fell, striking the ground hard. Blood mixed with dirt as he groaned in pain. Harris motioned the others to continue pushing forward. They could not stop now. Every second counted. The platoon had been together for months, training and surviving in hostile terrain. Each soldier carried his own story of courage, sacrifice, and fear. Sergeant Harris had seen wars before, but tonight weighed heavier on him than ever. He remembered the faces of his men and the responsibility that fell on his shoulders. Jackson remembered his family and the promises he had made to himself before joining the army. Each soldier felt the tension and the bond that connected them as brothers. As they advanced through the rocky paths, the shadows of the mountains seemed to move with them. Every sound made them flinch. The radio remained dead. The missing team had been out for hours collecting intelligence when the enemy had ambushed them. The thought of his comrades in danger made Harris tighten his grip on his rifle. The men shared silent glances, understanding the stakes. The night was alive with danger, and they were the prey and the hunters. Bullets zipped past the soldiers, sending dirt and sparks into the air. They moved slowly, using boulders and natural cover to avoid detection. Private Jackson's hand shook as he took careful aim. Harris shouted instructions, keeping morale intact. They reached a narrow ridge and paused to assess the terrain. From above, enemy forces fired sporadically, making them duck behind rocks. Harris whispered, "Stay calm, stay focused, move together." Every soldier understood the meaning of those words. Survival depended on unity and discipline. The team spotted the missing recon members trapped behind a destroyed armored vehicle. Flames rose high into the night, illuminating the soldiers' faces with orange light. The missing team fired back, but were outnumbered and outgunned. Harris signaled his men to flank the enemy using stealth and cover fire. Each step was measured and dangerous. Jackson lifted a wounded soldier over his shoulders, struggling under the weight, but refusing to let go. The platoon pressed forward inch by inch through the chaos. The enemy regrouped on a higher ridge and fired down relentlessly. Bullets ricocheted around the platoon. Harris realized the situation had escalated beyond normal combat. The platoon was surrounded with injured men in the middle of the battlefield. The night was filled with the sound of gunfire, explosions, and screams. Smoke and dust choked the air, making every movement dangerous. Jackson felt the fear crawl up his spine, but he remembered the words of Harris' courage is acting despite fear. He steadied his aim, firing at enemy fighters, giving cover to the rescue effort. A sudden explosion rocked the ridge, sending several men tumbling. One soldier lost his balance and fell toward a cliff edge. Harris lunged, grabbing him in time, saving him from certain death. Jackson carried two wounded soldiers across open ground, bullets hitting the rocks beside them. Every step was a battle against time and death. The helicopter had been delayed, and survival depended entirely on the platoon's grit and courage. Harris took the lead, standing exposed to cover his men. A bullet tore through his shoulder, but he ignored the pain, continuing to fire. The soldiers followed his example, pushing through exhaustion and fear. Jackson experienced moments of terror and inspiration, witnessing his commander risk everything to save lives. The wounded whispered thanks and promises to survive. The platoon became a single entity, moving as one against impossible odds. Explosions and tracer rounds illuminated faces filled with fear, determination, and brotherhood. The enemy began to retreat, but the night was still alive with danger. Harris called for smoke cover, thick clouds of white rolling across the mountains, creating temporary protection. They carried the wounded through the smoke inch by inch. Jackson felt his muscles burning, his lungs screaming, but he refused to stop. Every life saved strengthened the bond among soldiers. Every step forward was a victory against the darkness surrounding them. Finally, the distant sound of rotors cut through the night, signaling hope. A Black Hawk helicopter approached, its searchlight piercing the darkness. Enemy fire continued, but the pilot maneuvered skillfully. Harris ordered soldiers to move fast toward the landing zone. Injured were loaded first. Jackson lifted the heaviest man onto the helicopter, struggling but determined. Harris stayed behind, covering every move. A bullet tore through his leg, but he kept firing until pulled inside the helicopter. The night erupted in chaos, but the platoon was alive. Inside the helicopter, silence reigned. Soldiers wept, held hands, and reflected on survival. Harris looked at his men, pride and exhaustion in his eyes. They had faced death together, survived impossible odds, and proved the strength of courage and loyalty. Dawn broke over the mountains, revealing a world untouched by the horrors below. The night had tested them mercilessly, but their spirit remained unbroken. The soldiers returned to base, wounded, exhausted, but alive. Harris received medical care, and Jackson received recognition for bravery. The platoon shared stories of a night, recalling moments of terror, courage, and brotherhood. The mountains stood silent witnesses to their survival. The night that almost claimed everything had become a tale of heroism and human endurance. Every soldier carried the memory of a mission and a lesson that true bravery is standing tall despite fear and never leaving a brother behind. The story of that deadly night lived on within the unit, inspiring generations of soldiers, reminding them of courage, sacrifice, loyalty, and the unwavering spirit of the United States Army.